Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm the head of the Transformation Center based in Westport, Connecticut. And at the center, in addition to the individual transformation coaching and shamanic healing sessions that I do, we also have a lot of different classes and workshops, different trainings. We even have sound baths in the backyard when the weather is nice. And we're going to have kirtan this summer. So you can go on our website and check out all the events on the event page and find out more about what's coming up. I just love to bring in practitioners to do workshops because it's so interesting for people to try new things. So that's what that's all about. And really, the center is really meant to help you find out more about yourself. So to build your self-awareness so you can tune in and really, get in touch with who you really are. And from that place, anything is possible. So thanks for being here today for our episode of Conscious Conversations. And I really am excited that my guest today is Carolina Errazuriz, which I can't pronounce her last name.
It's fine.
I know, but thank you for being here today.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm going to read a little bit about you, and we're going to put up your contact info.
All right.
And then we'll jump right into our conversation. So Carolina is a mindset coach who is passionate about helping people in their journey to self-discovery and self-knowledge. She offers a simple tool for self-inquiry, which allows people to more easily access their own wisdom. I love that. And this same tool helps them better manage their relationships and their life as they gain a much deeper understanding of themselves and others. That's so perfectly said. I think we have a lot in common in that
Yes.
in that degree. So, Carolina and I met just a few months ago, not that long ago,
Yes.
maybe a year ago. And I was immediately drawn to her and the work that she does, and I was fortunate to experience it firsthand. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I wanted everybody else to meet you and learn about what you do.
Perfect. So I use a tool that I have kind of changed as I've been using it with my clients, but it's not mine. It's not mine. It was created by Byron Katie. It's called The Work. And it's basically a bunch of questions that guide you into self-inquiry. But its beauty is in its simplicity, and I would think I would put it as a conversation between your mind and your heart, and it guides you back to your own wisdom, which usually solves all the problems once you come from that place. But we don't have access to our wisdom because of modern life, and our brains are constantly trying to predict danger or whatever it is the brain does, which is very complex, but it's not connecting to its wisdom or our wisdom, which usually doesn't come from the brain actually. But that's what this tool does. So it's very simple and solves a lot of our problems with relationships or things that we are stressed out about in life. That's plenty, as we know, right? It can be anything, small or big. Yeah. Sometimes we have actual good reasons to be under tremendous stress, a sick child or recovering from a loss, all those things. But then there is the little things about life that stress us out because our nervous system really doesn't differentiate between a tiger attacking you and just an angry email, as we know. So that's what I use it for.
Yeah, that's terrific. So I want to hear more about that. But first, can you tell us what got you interested in this work in the first place? Like, what is your background? Anything about you?
Yeah. So basically, I grew up in a very emotionally difficult environment in my family. And from a very young age, none of it made sense to me. Like we had a very beautiful home, and we lived in I am from Chile originally.
From Chile?
Yeah, and we had a farm, and everything. My environment was so beautiful, and it had everything I ever needed. I had more than most of my classmates had. Yet there was a lot of unhappiness in my home, and there was a lot of fighting between my mom and my dad. And of course, as a child, you love both of them very dearly, and so you don't want to take sides or understand what's going on. They usually don't explain it to you. And also back then, this is in the 60s, all these psychological tools weren't really available to our parents. So they didn't know what they were doing, right? And I always thought, there's something wrong here. Why is it that two people are supposed to love each other are constantly at battle and hating each other, and they also fought in a very loud and scary way, for a child. So I was always very sensitive to the emotional, to the behavioral aspect of humans, and always thinking there must be an explanation. And that took me into this path of exploring human behavior. And I wanted to be a psychologist, which makes sense. But by the time I got to college, or about to get into college, my family was completely in the rumbles. My dad was about to die of cancer at 49. We had lost all our money. It was a complete chaos. Back then also, when a family member would have cancer, there was not support system for the family. So we were really had no idea how to deal with this. And so I had no way to withstand the efforts required to go through college. I went to first year of college, completely failed. I couldn't study. I was just completely not there. And then so my dad was dying, and he just suggested I became a flight attendant and just took care of myself financially rather than going to college. And so I did that, and I met my ex-husband, taking care of him as a passenger. The classic. So, I should be ashamed of saying that, right?
No.
Anyways, I met him there, and he was from a Chilean family, but he grew up in Switzerland and went to college in the U.S. And he was living in New York at the time, working. And so we fell in love, and I married him and moved to the U.S. And that in itself was an incredible experience for me. Yeah. It really took all my identity out of the picture, because here I was really just someone from abroad. That was it. But back in Chile, being from the upper class and all that, I had all this identity that was very powerful. Even though we didn't have any money and all that, we still remained from the upper class and very privileged in that way.
Right, and you come to the U.S. and you're a nobody.
Nobody. And we came to live in Greenwich, which is, where a lot of people live that are from, if there are any classes in the U.S., that would be a place where it plays out, right? And my neighbors were all of the upper class, if we can say that. But I was invisible to them. I wasn't part of the club, and I was like, what? It was just so weird, what weird feeling, but also it was a good thing that happened to me, because then I had to be just me, I really had to, it was like taking off all the privilege that I had.
So
or
you could just be yourself and create a new
Yes, exactly.
person.
Like I had to, it was some sort of a freedom, because the upper class also has a lot of bad stuff in it.
Well, and also the expectations of being a certain way.
Yes, all of that. And so it was a good thing for me. but you can stop me because I would go on and on if you don't.
No. This is a great story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I want to know
so-
how you got finally into what you're doing.
So then I had committed myself to having like the perfect marriage and being like, you know, and it didn't work out. And yet another way of life of showing you that you don't decide really, and there are forces outside of you that are kind of like moving all the pieces. Basically said, in other words, we're part of the psychological context that comes from previous generations and cultural, and it's like the year you were born and the world conflict in that time. All of these are variables that influence your psychological patterns.
Well, true.
You know?
And the inherited
The
aspect of it, the inherited trauma.
If you're a woman, what happened to your ancestors, you know, and so all those things play out, and so you can think that you have a blank slate, but you really don't. And so I had promised myself not to be in an unhappy marriage like my parents were, and I tried to do my best to stay married and have a good marriage and all that, but you need the other person to be on board for that too, right? And that didn't work, and it was very terrible for me to get divorced. And so I was like in a constant state of, I know better. I constantly read. I wanted to go back to school and finish my psychology studies and all that. But there was this huge inner conflict at play all the time that made it so hard for me to go for these other things. At that time, coaching started as a career. And I thought this would be much easier to do, to study, to get my certification from coaching, and then going back to school. And also coaching has these outlook towards creating rather than all the things that happened to you in the
more
past.
Towards the future, not the past.
Yeah, and so I was like, I can't think of my traumas and my family anymore. It's like, I just want good things, right? And so I went for coaching, and initially I wanted to help people with their relationships, and then, you know, one thing took into another. I got a 7-year like complete that I got distracted, to put it that way. I was in a relationship with a man that was a narcissist, which was also something that was crucial to my childhood. My mom still is, I suppose, and that's a major psychological problem. And and so I went into this relationship with this man, and it was again terrible, and I'm still in this inner battle trying to have a life that corresponded to all the things that I've been learning and all the things that I knew as a coach. I wasn't a psychologist by, you know, having gone to college, but I read everything under the sun. Sure. So I knew all this information, yet I couldn't apply it to myself, and that
really
drove me insane. And
well, except that the people that come into our lives are our teachers.
Yes.
And so you were learning it without, like, not with a book, but by having the experience through your relationships. Yes. It sounds like.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up finding Byron Katie's work. So basically, I have followed many mentors, like you were saying. But finally, when I got to her, I really liked her tool because it really showed me how evident it is and how clear it is that what's going on in your head is really what's creating the outside. And it's not the outside that it's influencing your inner life. It's the other way around. It's hard for us to grasp that, right?
I think it is, and I totally agree with you, because that's what I'm very interested in, that work. Like, you know, we create our own reality, and we either can do it consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
we're doing it unconsciously, we're not getting what we want.
Which we are.
I mean, everybody is.
Yeah, we are in automatic. It's how our brains function. It's how we survive.
Yeah.
And you have to constantly bring yourself into consciousness, like into self-awareness. And self-awareness is now, I understand, a practice. It's something you have to do all the time, because you go back to being under the spell of life all the time, instantly.
Right, like you said,
There's
it's
no
automatic.
choice.
It's like,
Yeah.
the way I look at it, it's like that's our default mode.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Is to be unconscious.
Yes, and to be in the identity that we have created through our lives. And it's not like that you change it. You have to be very self-aware, and then you have to do the work of changing. Like you through your self-awareness and connected to your wisdom, you see certain picture outside. You say, oh, this is it. That person is a good person. They're not doing it against me or whatever. They're not doing it purposely. I do it too. Like when we had our session, you discovered how you were doing things that you claimed the other was doing to you and all that. And you really see yourself. And you also see what you really care about and what you consider really important to you. But then you go into the spell again, right? And you're like reacting, and you're not in integrity to what you really deeply believe. And the world makes it very hard too. It's not like you're stupid or when are you going to get it, right? It's not that easy at all.
No, it's not. It's not easy, but it is simple.
It is, yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah.
But it does take practice, and like you
Yes.
said, because our culture, especially I think in our country, there's other, in countries that are more or less developed rather, it's almost easier in some ways because you don't have all those distractions and all the cultural norms that are being thrown at us all the time, and I think it might be a little easier.
Yeah, it's there is huge amount of distraction, and then there is all the we don't have the knowledge that we need to have about our brain or our nervous system, which are the ones that are really driving the car. Is our nervous system, which are all the reactions to threat that's imagined basically at this time, because we're not really surviving at that level, right? But these are reactions that started when you were a child, when you really were powerless and really didn't understand anything that was going on. There is shame. All these things are driving all your decisions and all the things that you do. It's not your rationality. We think it is, but that's not it at all. And that's why this whole story that I told you about my life, like I kept thinking I should be in a better spot by now. I should make better decisions. What's going on with me? Like always, like, so why? And it's because it really requires you to do the work of self-inquiry, self-awareness, and integrity. And it's a daily practice. And forgive yourself and love yourself. That's another thing that it's been a quest of mine, is to learn to love myself. It's been very, very hard. I'm 58 years old and I'm just starting to be able to look myself in the mirror, which you would think, are you crazy? Like, what are you talking about? But I'm being very honest.
I think it's more
true.
common than we would like to acknowledge, that it's not something that I think people even think about, because all the people that I work with, it's like, they never occur to them. Of course I love myself, but then when you get right down to it, no, the self-talk is very detrimental, No, it's
Yeah,
I think
no.
you're in good company. Not that many people know how to love themselves.
No.
In a way, and my theory on that is that we're all have a spark of divinity in us individually. I
Yes.
think it's not just something outside of us. So for me, that actually was the doorway to self-love, was to realize that I am a spark of the divine. I have God within me. And so how could I not love myself?
That's a good one.
You know, to look at it that way and to realize that, you know, that I'm connected and I'm part, I'm one with everything and everyone and every, you know, the whole, I love looking at it that way.
Yes.
Because then you realize you're not separate.
That's true, but that's where I insist that it's a practice, because like you say that to me, right? And it's something that's very clear to you. It's a concept that you already own, right? Like it's a truth for you.
Right.
But then if you get into a little fight somewhere, right? Then the separation, it's very clear. Like I'm here, you're there, you're wrong, I'm right. Like you fall into, because it's your brain and your nervous system again will kick in for survival.
Well, right.
You're not connected to that insight of I'm spiritual, and I'm not saying you. Maybe you
just one.
are very good at keeping it with you and acting from it every day. But most of us will, or it happened to me a lot, that I would have these amazing insights. I think I just touched these amazing insights, and then the next day I was just like fighting with my boyfriend big time, and I'm like, where did the insight go? Or it might have happened that morning. You know, what happened?
No, it takes time. And it's funny, I just had this conversation this morning with my sister. It's like the things that you know are like in your head. So it's intellectual.
Yeah.
The things that you feel are more in your body. So intellectually, you know that it's not helpful to want to be right about something all the time. You know, and this, my sister and I both kind of inherited from our parents, okay? And so we know that, but if somebody says something to you or to me, I get defensive like that, like immediately.
Yeah.
Yet I'm able to say pretty quickly, oh, I see myself reacting, and then I can shift.
Very good.
And my sister does the same thing. I said, you know, don't beat yourself up about it, because it happens. You can't just always be perfect. You know, there's no such thing, right?
Exactly.
But I think the key is to have what you were saying about that self-awareness enough to know that you're going, you know, in the wrong direction, or not the wrong direction, but you're going in a not helpful direction.
Yes. To like come back.
To come back, to take that moment. You know, sometimes it takes a second, sometimes it takes 5 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
Varies.
Yeah.
But I catch myself all the time.
Yeah. And to do also as well the work of keeping your body, which is where the nervous system lives, in a healthy shape.
Oh.
Because
Very
you
important.
can't access anything from being extremely tired, from being overly caffeinated, or having eaten all these crappy food or whatever. Like you're asking for the impossible. Your body's just completely out of whack.
Right,
So
right. It all works together.
Yeah.
You know, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual,
Yes,
the mental,
it's
all
a balance
of it.
of all these areas, and then and like you were saying before, we live in a world that just is not helpful in that regard. America, wherever it is, you know, I mean, most countries are a crazy place to live, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not just here. No, I agree. We don't want to just badmouth our country for sure, but I think it's more in our face here. That's just my impression. You know, I haven't lived in other countries like you have, but it is, and it takes time. It takes a really, you know, purposeful effort to tune out, like such as the media, because you know, they have a job to do, and their job is to get us to listen to them. You know.
And it's our job to decide whether we do.
Right, to decide or be discerning about what's true and what's not true. But personally, I don't watch the news.
Yeah, me neither.
Ever.
Me neither. And this is a funny, you know, fight that I fight, or, you know, thing I have with my boyfriend, because he's one of those people that, like, listens to the news all the time. And so for him, that I don't know what's going on, it's just insane. And I have this joke with my kids where I've said to them, you let me know if the world ends like tomorrow, because I will be the only one that doesn't know it. I'll be roaming the streets. Like, where is everybody? Yeah, it was the end of the world last night. You didn't know?
So you're even more
yeah,
extreme
no,
than I am.
Like, zero news.
Well,
Zero.
I do read, but I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
But I do read certain things, not
Yeah.
online, but Anyway, it's not that I have my head in the sand. I know what's what can be triggering or what can be upsetting or all of those things.
yeah.
So I prefer to just be within and be calm and keep that centeredness, where then I can be be who I am and be helpful for other people too.
Exactly. And that's going back to Byron Katie's the work tool, is that she says that very often, where who are you going to be? Like, are you going to be the sane person that people can go to? Are you going to be the crazy one, the affected one that's crying, depressed and angered or whatever? Or are you going to be the one that people can go and find peace with? Like you were saying, they're centered, and we need more of those people, because the world, it's filled with people that are just like doing whatever, or fighting, or being upset, or lying, or all the things that we humans do, and we do it too. But so that's a good thing.
Just coming back to who we are. Just keep coming back to who we are, who we really are, and therefore changing the world in that regard, because I think it does. One person at a time, we can gradually spread and get bigger. And I do have a feeling that is what's happening, that there's more awareness, more people with more awareness coming. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah. I don't know. I have good days and bad days. There are days where I feel, oh, the world is crazy. We live in a crazy house, and not in a crazy house, in a madhouse.
Oh, madhouse. Yeah.
And there are days where, especially if I'm strolling in the woods, where I'm like, no, the world is okay, but I'm not strolling within humans. I'm like in the woods where there's peace and everything makes sense.
Yeah, but then you bring that back.
Yes, you bring that back, and that's the work to do, for sure.
That is the work.
Yeah.
So that's really terrific that that you're doing this work based on the work
yes,
by Byron Katie, because I think it's really it's so helpful and important. I mean, the session that I had with you, I really got a lot out of it, and and that's saying all the other work that I've already done, and I still got something out of it.
I know. That's why it has become one of my favorite things to do. Although I have tweaked it a little bit, I'm not like a facilitator of the work, because I don't do it exactly like she would have me to do it.
Right.
I kind of did it on my way.
Right. Well, you put your own spin on it.
I do my coaching within the structure. And
Gotcha.
yes, I use it as just a way of
structuring
structuring my own coaching. But it's we have to end.
We're getting near the end. Yes. Yeah.
You can tell I'm not used to these interviews. I'm like, oh my God, like you would not tell me. But I was going to say that, yes, like nothing else has helped me, this tool, to really see myself, all those blind spots that we have. And it has helped me with things that I never thought I could change, which were like my relationship with my mother. Having survived sex abuse and things like that, and seeing really, and always feeling like having a deeper, damage, having had experienced that, and really being able to forgive, and all that was through the work.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to have to wrap up, but thank you so much for being here, Carolina.
Thank you so much
great.
for having me.
Thank you to our audience for being here today for Conscious Conversations. And thank you to the Westport Library, Verso Studios, for hosting us.
Thank you.
Namaste. Bye-bye.